Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is DB333, and welcome back to Hearts of Iron 4, The New Order Last Days of Europe. Now, in the last video, it kind of ended a little abruptly. One, because I was getting a phone call, and two, because it was dramatic to end off like this. Schorner now controls Russia. Willy Brandt is starting to control Eastern Europe. And Speer is about to yell his goddamn throat. His vocal cords are going to be fucked by the end of this, or mine will at least. Also, Russia won and ate Kazakhstan, but that's not even the most important thing that's happening right now, if you can fucking believe it. Yeah. It is not good times. Also, I got a call that says that one of my friends might have COVID, and that's the case. I've hung out with him recently, so I might have COVID. But we'll worry about that when time comes. It's not confirmed. His sister might have it. They'll do the test. If that's confirmed, that he might be confirmed, and then I might be confirmed in it. I figured I'd get it eventually, but, still sucks to hear it. So, anyway. Let's go and start. The report sat among what seemed like a million others on Speer's desk, the rest of the gang crowded in their various chairs. However, this one was clearly more important than any other. The Führer had even cleared out a space on his desk for it, an island of paper on a sea of hardwood. He looked up at the gang and placed a finger squarely on the text. "You want to know what this says?" Silence. Ashamed, total silence. No gang member even dared to stare into Speer's flaming eyes. Field Marshal Schorner has, after his coup Moscovian, seized the control of revolting areas through swift, forceful action. From the little information we are currently receiving, Reich banner rebels have either retreated or into hiding or fled. Speer read matter-of-factly. He looked up again when he finished. Still, none of the others dared to respond. You know what this means? It means that Ferdinand fucking Schorner is the Reich's face of stability and action, and we're standing around with our pants down! Well, my Führer, Schorner has the luxury to just run over protesters with tanks. Schmidt started. Speer cut him off with a furious wave of his hands. And why can't we do the same? They're the rebels. If the American students started shooting at the soldiers, they wouldn't pussyfoot around with their response, now would they? Silence. A stunned, disbelieving silence entered the room. Slowly, the gang filed out, and Speer sat back down. That was certainly too far, but was it not a justified outburst? If Germania didn't do something and fast, Schorner would do it for them, and then they'd be in real trouble. Well, when it rains, it pours. Man. With the last of a German garrison evacuated from Reval, Estonia is now officially lost to the Reich. When that gala fell only a few days ago, the authorities had immediately begun preparations, requisitioning civilian ships docked at the port and loading them with documents, equipment, and as many German civilians as possible. When the border patrols reported slave bands crossing the river of the border of the administrative region, and unrest mounted in Reval itself, the evacuation began in earnest, and the enslaved laborers were freed mostly bloodlessly. Even though there haven't been episodes of violence against the German settlers yet, aerial reconnaissance missions show several armories and police stations on fire, likely burned after the remaining weapons had been ransacked. With the Baltic region under rebel control, the Reich can no longer reinforce Belarus by land, which makes it the perfect candidate for the next stage of the uprising. This is madness. My God. Yep, there goes Estonia. I'll read this first, Because I'll add the title of that just for all. As the Germans' hold over Eastern Europe weakens with every passing day, the Reich suffers another blow to its reputation as Belarus falls under the control of a slave revolt. Weapons have been smuggled into labor camps around Minsk, and when night fell, the revolt erupted, taking the security by surprise. Many were killed, and those who survived could only escape to the city and warn the administration. With barely enough time to gather their families, the officials were hurriedly evacuated alongside most of the garrison. With the fall of Minsk, one of the main centers of German administration in Eastern Europe, the chain of command is quickly coming apart as the remaining minor administrations desperately try to save themselves from what is felt more and more like a looming doom. With most of the German Lebensraum lost, reports from the central government relay the worry over the dramatic increase in the unrest in Germany itself. We can't let the revolt proceed further. So there goes what? Yep, Belarus. They're looking kind of thick, not gonna lie. One bullet in the chamber, and none in the magazine. That's all he needed. That's all he wanted. Speer calmly slid the gun under the desk and swallowed back pent-up saliva. Then the tremors returned, and Speer raised his head to look up at the maps on his desk. Here was Germany, powerful and strong, a population of more than 100 million, built on success after success, and with his guiding hand would steer it into the future. In the east, it was all stripes and circles. The slaves, the whelps, the Untermensch. They had taken so much territory now, and again his Aryan people failed him. He would not allow it. No. The Führer was no longer Adolf Hitler. It was Albert Speer. He held the power now. He called the shots. All he had to do was make the call. Make the call. Papers and office equipment clattered to the floor, and Speer slammed open a drawer, pulling a pen out. The map of Europe remained, and he began scribbling it. Just like when he was back with Hitler, when strategies would be described, he punctured holes into the map to signify where the tanks would blitz. He scribbled across whole areas that would be carpet-bombed. Oh, they would learn their place by bullet, gun, fire, tank. He didn't care what the Western world thought. Germany was a master of the world, and everyone else would bend the knee. And him, he muttered, voice grazing against his throat with hoarse pain. His eyes flickered to Germany. Speer let out a short, raw chuckle. Helmut Schmidt, you Jew, you Zionist little puppet. How I'll see you hang. Maybe I'll... He reached in a hand and barely wrapped his fingers around the grip as he pulled the pistol out and clattered it neatly on the table. Yes, that's what I'll do. I don't need to sign papers. I'll do it myself. There will be 1 million dead Untermensch before they take an inch of Germany. And Helmut Schmidt and his friends will be shot. Whew. I'm waiting for Lithuania to fall any second now. I'm waiting for the rest of Ukraine. I wonder if Crimea will fall as well. We're not complicit. What are you talking about? Let's favor Washington. We decided that we should not risk overstepping our bounds. Who knows what the Americans could do? They are a brash nation. The Japanese may not be the biggest fans of the decision, but their thoughts on the matter don't amount to much. They want this deal after all, and even it would be political suicide to decline, even if it isn't fully in their favor. I mean, if this goes badly, this guy's probably going to force people to suicide. He's probably going to force his entire fucking nation to suicide, let's be real. But, we'll worry about that when the time comes. The wave of unrest in the wake of the slave revolt is growing to cataclysmic magnitudes, and the German government finds itself unable to react. Kiev, the main settlement in Ukraine and the largest industrial center in the region, has fallen during the nights as thousands of indentured laborers managed to free themselves and attack the guards. The garrison desperately tried to hold on to the city, but they were only a few hundred against tens of thousands. Faced with the prospect of having to fight to the death against a human wave, or call the Luftwaffe and burn the city to ashes to keep order, the commander chose retreat. Within a few hours, the government and their families were evacuated to Crimea in a heavily escorted convoy, immediately followed by most remaining German forces and all those who feared for their lives. Without functioning administration, orders across Ukraine is collapsing. While the revolt is yet to hit the eastern part of the country, the Reich fears it will touch the Caucasus, one of the regions with the highest percentage of slaves in the entire Reich. Protect the Caucasus at all cost. Caucasus. I have the humor of a child, if you cannot tell. What is this? Volgastadt is a liberal democracy. Was? That's actually kind of base, not gonna lie. That's besides the point. The hopes of the revolt dying in its own were crushed overnight. Katharinenstadt, one of the many main tungsten extraction sites in Caucasian and home to dozens of slave mines, was awoken by the light of fires, burning camp, and security buildings. The city fell in mere hours, almost half of the garrison slaughtered by the enraged rebels before they could secure an escape route for the administration and colonists. Refugees from the city report its act of extreme brutality against Germans in Katharinenstadt, with lynch mobs seeking out anyone who worked as security or administrative personnel in the camps, exacting their revenge on them for the years of suffering. With this sudden turn of events, Caucasian finds itself in chaos as the main administrative center is now lost. German companies are squabbling to save their investments, and there are talks of private security forces desperately trying to keep order in the absence of police force. No, we need those resources. Yep, there goes that. So the Federation is kind of cut off. Who was he? Albert Speer, what was his role? Fear of the Thousand-Year Reich? He was not anyone's lackey, and for far too long he let these liberals and communists around him influence him, to try and sway him. Ever since Speer fantasized about returning to his roots as a dictator of Germany, he was scared. What if it went wrong? What if it was stopped? So he anxiously waited for something, and that something came. When Albert Speer received the news that Willy Brandt was now in support of a slave revolt, his mind went into a white haze of rage. Without thinking, he tore classified documents in half and reached for his gun. He knew where Helmut Schmidt was. Within minutes, he knew the Jew would be dead. If only Speer had the patience to give him something worse. Storming out of his office, he began walking directly to Schmidt's office with only one thing on his mind, but something stopped him. In the dim shadows of the Reichskanzlei, he could hear footsteps behind him. Before he could turn around, pain shot through his arms as hands grabbed tightly, and in front of him walked Reinhard Gehlen. "What the hell are you doing, Gehlen?" he screamed. "No! You know! You know! What do you know?" Gehlen gave a small smile as he recovered a thick document and allowed it in each hand. "My Führer, there was no weight to that word. I have an interest in keeping things as is. Here," he said, wiggling the document mockingly in his hand, "is a list of all the terrible things you did during your tenure as Minister of Armaments and War Production. Here," he continued, flicking the lighter open near the paper, "is your freedom. Choose wisely, Herr Speer. One will end you, the other will free you." Speer could hardly see anything past unfocused shapes, but he could hear crisply what the man said. His strength failed him. And he attempted to break free. He sent you, didn't he? He set you up, didn't you? He asked, and Galen raised an eyebrow. Schmidt! He did it! He brought you here! He knew what would happen, didn't he? Didn't he? Fury filled his crackling voice, and all he could think about was how Schmidt would look with a bullet in his brain. Schmidt! His lungs pained him. Schmidt! Galen merely shook his head with disappointment. Schmidt! You degenerate scumbag! Come out! Come out so I can get you! Schmidt! Come out! Oh shit. So yeah, Speer is going fucking nutter butters. Let's drop the levies. Do we really care about fucking trade? I think not. You're wondering how I can rape your ears next. Oh. Well, it's not slaves this time, it seems. Amidst the chaos of the slave revolts, Caucasian was almost completely overrun by the rebels, with only Baku resisting the onslaught thanks to the massive influx of mercenaries from Muscovian and the Metropolitan Reich. While most had thought these men were only paid by the corporations to protect the vital oil fields in the region, their presence had soon taken a more sinister meaning. Day after day, the mercenaries and their enigmatic leader, a former SS-turned-mercenary named Otto Weidinger, took more and more power within the crumbling administration, taking advantage of the growing chaos to present themselves as the only ones with the means to protect Germany's interests. Today, in a shocking development, Weidinger's men stormed the main administrative compound and after a brief firefight with the guards, took military control of the city. Baku's Galadier is currently being detained for incompetence and corruption until a proper trial can be held. The government of Germania immediately branded Weidiger's men as traitors and ordered their arrest. But even the Führer knows that these are but empty words, with no way to transport the troops to Baku during the slave revolt, and the not-so-subtle threat of sabotaging the oil drills hang in the air. The central government can only wait. Suspicions are arising, however, over a massive airlift, pair-dropping supplies and weapons from Muscovian, paid for by corporations deeply tied to Abs, Flick, and their clique of industrialists. While nothing is certain in these troubled times, few think this is a coincidence. Questions will have answers in due time, and answers will prompt a response, the scope of which remains shrouded in the deepest darkness. He'll soon have his due. So yeah, that's the German Free Corps. So we got Dominic Holman. He doesn't have a thing. We have Otto Weidinger. The slave revolt has sown chaos and destruction across the Reich's eastern territories, but nowhere has it been hit as hard as Caucasia, a land famed for its brutal treatment of slaves and natives alike. The fires of rebellion burnt hot and fast here, shredding the old order in a fierce maelstrom. The final vestige of the German administration retreated Baku, the heart of Reich's oil production, and was forced to rely on corporate-brought mercenaries to replace the shattered garrison. It was to be their undoing. Otto Weidinger is no bureaucrat. He is a soldier, plain and simple. An SS man turned mercenary, Weidinger has spent the better part of his life crisscrossing the East with his mercenary bands, aiding whatever buyer needs him for the right price. From putting down partisans to defending corporate holdings, Weidinger has seen it all. The quintessential mercenary, on par with Siegfried Müller. However, there's one thing Weidinger has no experience in, it's running a nation. That's where the companies come in. Ooh. Weidinger is nothing more than a figurehead for the real administrative powers. The companies, oil companies, tungsten companies, all sorts of corporations have come together behind Schorner's promises of a return to the days of glory. Their influence over the Caucasus has ousted the pro-Germania government, placing Weidinger on top and giving him the power he needs to deal with these pesky slaves. Weidinger himself has no qualms with this situation. A fat paycheck and full control over the company's soldiers, in addition to his normal band, would be enough for him without helping return Germany to its glory days. For later as well, this may as well be his dream gig, assuming he can maintain it, of course. So we have National Socialist Baku Industrialists and the Extremistan Free Corps. Interesting. friends! Willy Brandt's powerful voice reverberated across the packed crowds of Warsaw. The slaves, the freedmen, the reporters, the partisans, all were here. All were welcome. We are here because of a destructive monster that is known as the German Reich. The innumerable evils it has committed have shocked the world into silence, but no more. No longer shall Adolf Hitler's vile ideology spread any further. Kill any more people! A sort of frenzy of cheering was met in response, for but a moment drowning out the hopelessness and desperation. I wish for all of you to listen. I know your hatred. All of it is deserved. All of it! To wish for my people to be thrown out of Europe for their crimes, but please, listen to what I have to say. We must end the cycle of hatred, here and now. The cheering voices have remained powerful, but quieter than ever. I know of a Germany, the true Germany, which the Nazis have attempted to eradicate. Brand took in a deeper breath. But it will never die! The light of a democratic Germany can never be extinguished. There's a better future for Europe. We must not stand as slave and master, as Aryan and non-Aryan. We must stand as brother to brother, sister to sister, equal to equal. So please, on behalf of all of Europe, I beg you, forgive us. Those who have been murdered by this regime never had the chance to. His hands tightened to fist. His teeth grit harder. The people judge him with their silence. Forgive us, O people of Europe, even if we do not deserve a shred of sympathy. Those who know us better will continue to fight for freedom. His voice trailed off in strength and began showing cracks as the air became stiff. Willy Brandt slowly landed on his knees and bowed his head deeply. The seconds passed and nobody said anything. They could notice his frame shaking. From the shaking, 2 tears dropped to the wooden platform. He expected the people to suffocate him with their silence, but as one man began to clap, so did 10, so did 100, so did 1,000. And as he looked up at those who dared to fight for their freedom, he let a wobbly smile come to his face. Danke. The slave revolt begins. New decisions and focuses are available. There are many things that the Reich is infamous for internationally. None is as egregious as its heavy use of slave labor in projects, sowing resentment across Europe. However, with Speer's method of steady reform, it seems that unrest among the slave class had been quelled. This has been spectacularly proven false. Across the Reich's eastern holdings, slaves have taken up arms against their German masters, carving a gash against the continent. While Speer's government scrambles to put together a response, Field Marshal Schorner has seized control of the Reich's Russian territory, promising a crushing response to the revolt if Germany is unable to control the situation. Though an uneasy peace still holds between all 3 parties, the world watches with bated breath if Germany will finally drop the shackles of slavery altogether. This is a disaster. One people we will be. One people will we be. A band of brothers. No danger, no distress shall sunder us. We will be freedmen as our fathers were, and soon welcome death, then life as slaves. Friedrich Schiller, William Tell. Freedom beckons. So yeah, we lost that one focus tree. What's our regime stability looking at like right now? High, all things considered. Alright, so control over Eastern Europe has slipped from Germania, with both the slaves led by Willy Brandt Reichsbanner and rebellious Wehrmacht units under Field Marshal Schorner threatens to destroy everything Speer and the gang have built over the years. Still, it is clear we cannot simply storm over both. Reichsbanner and its supporters hold key industrial regions of the Zollverein, and murdering thousands of slaves will utterly destroy any international goodwill. Schorner threatens to go against the slaves no matter Germania's will. While Russia has worth in itself, it's a smaller price to pay than the alternative. So to launch an invasion, the Wehrmacht must be sufficiently prepared and civilian agitation sufficiently reduced. Oh man. Okay. We gotta restore this front line, so I'll do that real quick. Offensive line. We'll do an offensive line here. There we go. And then we've dismantled them. Let's go and take a look at the decisions. The sword has fallen. Out of nowhere, our administration has been completely blindsided by slave uprising not seen in our Reich's history. Led by left-wing students and revolutionaries, the Reich banner has torn a bloody gash down Eastern Europe, splitting the Reich in two. On our side, the gang and Speer enter into their final split on policy, the gang pulling one way while the Führer pulls the other. Helmut Schmidt, leading the charge to agree to the slaves' demands, clashes directly with Albert Speer's own call to accept only the bare minimum, nothing more, and force them back into the fold. The Reichstag cracks in confusion and chaos, and the Reich lies helpless to respond. In the east, Ferdinand Schorner has committed his final betrayal, splitting from the Reich, and with the promise to march west, crush the slaves, and complete his return as hero to Germany. If this revolt is not dealt with before his invasion begins, our plans are surely doomed. This very well could be the moment that decides Speer's Reich. Whether he maintains control or not, this is an event that will ring through all of European history forevermore. It's crucial that we do not fail. The sword has fallen. And now, it's time to restore trust. Our situation is beginning to look grim. Civil agitation throughout our country is starting to boil over. Continuous dissatisfaction and dissent has eroded trust with our administration to a dangerous new low. If this trend continues, we'll have more than likely a disaster on our hands. We need to restore trust in our government at once. Make promises, give the people benefits. Whatever we must do, we just need to restore a little faith in our administration. Just a little. Also, I guess we're not going to be cool with Italy, but well, that's... I don't think we care about Italy right now, honestly. Whew. Yeah. I don't really care about Italy right now. I don't know about you guys, but I don't. I'm more worried about, a lot of these guys, honestly. Ooh, the Free Corps has declared on the Volkestadt. Interesting. Alright, that's one of the, Balkanized states that can pop up. Remember now. Well, we'll see if Volgestadt hangs on. Let's see what's going on in the rest of the world. The Baathists are probably going to win in Iraq. The Kurds don't have a shot. What does that remind you guys of? Jeez. Okay. Restoring trust. Okay, Schorner's invasion is going to start in 217 days. The gang is intervening. Okay. I clicked that. I don't know what that does. Okay, let's send in... Okay, an assault from Frankenstadt is all good and well, but we should be able to convince Volgestadt to join the offensive. Schorner would face a war on multiple fronts. Even if Volgestadt fails to put up a fight, at least it will serve as a distraction. Not that we tell them as much, at least. Okay, that gives us some extra days. Okay, let's prep some convoys. Grant some emergency funding. Let's attempt to go... Okay, actually, let's send the R&D in. Right. Okay, let's extend the olive branch. Many of the folks marching in protest are civil, understanding, upstanding citizens of Germany through and through. They aren't out to destroy the country. They merely want their voices to be heard. We should let these folks know that we really are listening. Sitting down with leaders of these marches and movements will communicate that we are reasonable and all on the same side. We're working for a better future for Germany. So preparedness has to be at 100. Social agitation has to be below 30. So regime stability right now. 88. We get old speeches. Who would have thought that this actually is gonna pop back and be useful again? But it is. Okay, yeah. The gang is intervening. Okay, let's let the gang intervene, actually. Yeah, there goes that. If I'm not mistaken, they're probably going to join these guys' faction, right? I mean, they're sort of... I mean, it's Baathist. These guys are Baathist, too. Extend the olive branch. Okay. The Reich gets. One of the core issues that has led to where we are today is our use of our unified police, the ORPO. If we're going to convince people that we are genuinely trying to reform, we need to address their complaints about our use of police. Therefore, we will reform the ORPO into the Reich Polizei. There will be a clean, fresh start for our police agents by being more transparent and sticking to newly written protocols which will respect the rights of German citizens. We should be able to address one of the people's core problems with our administration, right? Right? Okay, we'll do it. We'll do it. That'll work. Okay, up the prep. Up the preparedness. The gang is interfering. Wait. Yeah, these guys have been dismantled. I don't know what to do there. Let's try to negotiate with them some more. Surely that'll work, right? Oh fuck, we better chill out with them. Actually, 17. We'll have a few days. We'll do some token promises. It'll work out. It'll work out. Let's research this. Finish that up. Okay, how many troops do these guys have? That's a lot of troops. Yeah, if they actually have that many troops, that is fucking terrifying. The Reich Polizei gets. Okay. Local independence. Centralized police forces are causing a lot of friction all throughout Germany. Our direct oversight with the country's forces has upset most of our population one way or the other. Many folks believe that they should have some say in who becomes chiefs of police or who is allowed in force. The people want more locals in their force as well. They wonder why we won't let them have a part in the process. Although handing over the policing to locals through our country will decrease our overall power projection, may be a necessary evil we need to live with. As a more hands-off approach akin to the police structure of the 1930s would put us in the good graces of many of our people. God knows we need that right now. Please don't kill me. Oh, what is that? Oh, what was that? Defeated who? What? Who? Huh? Okay, our staff is holding in. Yeah, our minimal stability is below 30, and that's when it will collapse. Okay. Sending the R&D. Emergency funding. Republicans. Okay, they won. That's kind of nice, I think. Probably compared to the other two. It's nice. Whew. Yeah, that'll decrease social agitation. There we go, local independence. Now let's do the RSG-9. Ooh. Experience has taught us that we need a highly mobile, well-trained, and heavily armed police unit to deal with dangerous situations that the average policeman isn't ready to deal with. We will push them under a regiment that will make an army man blush. These chosen few will be the cream of the crop of our police force, trained in urban combat, close quarters combat, and negotiation, hostage situations, and way more. How's Willie Chad Brandt doing? I like how the flag is just the Nazi flag with 3 arrows over it. That's pretty dope. Do I dare say based? I don't know if I'd say based. It's kind of basic. It's simple. There's a certain appeal to that simpleness, I guess. Volgestadt is pushing through. Okay, we can't do fortify them quite yet. We need agitation to be lower. Emergency funding. More negotiations. I don't know what else to do, honestly. Salvage the economy. Fuck it. The global oil crisis that has crippled our economy, and that's putting it lightly. We cannot just continue without some sort of action. We need to decide, and quickly, what our next course of action will be. We need to be quick and decisive if we are going to salvage what remains of our economy. Breaking down old, building up new. The heat beat down on his body and his muscles ached as everything about this was things he hated. He felt like he wanted to vomit, an alarm blaring, awake only after 4 hours of sleep that was forced by 2 hours of strenuous exercise and having to listen to lectures about this and that. The things Eric had to do to join this newly formed anti-terrorist group made him regret coming. But how could he back out now? With swastika emblazoned on his urban camouflage clothing, a variety of utilitarian tools at his side, and a rifle that slung over his back, he and a couple of other RSG-9 members had hastily exited the barracks and made their way to an abandoned 2-story house that was repurposed as a building to practice hostage rescue scenarios. It was deep into the night when they pulled up and prepared themselves, reciting through the countless hours of forced listening they had to go through. That brought him here. When Eric kicked down the door, he felt his head go light, but procedures had to be followed, and through the pain that pulsed throughout his body, the ache that made his mind feel raw and vulnerable, and resulting gunshots that wrung his ears as he screamed out methodical orders to both would-be terrorists and his 2 own men. He wondered to himself, wandering through with gun and flashlight, nerves frayed yet still on edge, what would his skills be pressed for? The former slaves with students, Antifa? None seemed particularly dangerous, yet Eric was put through hell for a reason only the higher-ups would know. He could only theorize one answer: a necessary peacekeeper in the coming days. See what they're doing. Does them do... Okay, so they're actually lowering... That might just coincide with something, actually. We got time still. Our stab is fine. I'm not worried about the stab. The global economy is melting down. Let's focus on all the money in the world. Some within our administration have suggested that the first steps on the road to recover would be to strictly ration our oil until global prices lower and stabilize. These men are, of course, wrong. Rationing petroleum would be detrimental to our economy. We can simply not afford to place limits on how much fuel a person or company can buy. The results would be devastating to our already hurt economy. Although it will cost us a great deal, the momentary cost will be worth it in the long run. I think I hear like a fighting cat in the distance. I don't know why my hearing is good with like really strangely distant stuff, but I can barely understand people speaking sometimes. It's weird. It really is. Do they get cores on this? They don't. All the money in the world. Let's go with the energy Shiraskunsgesetz. By passing the bill, the Energy Insurance Act will guarantee that other members of our economic pact will have access to affordable petroleum. It's going to cost us, but it won't be cheap to subsidize this fuel. But oil is absolutely vital to not only our own economy, but to all the members in our own economic sphere. If we are going to keep the economic pact together, then we must act. There we go. Oh god, social agitation is high. Is that the gang interfering? We'll see in a second, I guess. No. Not necessarily. This might be a little unnecessary. Maybe, honestly. Let's open up the ports. It's time to fully commit to free trade. Doubling down on autarky will only hamper our economic growth. If we want recovery and growth, we need to encourage it. Stimulating global trade is the only way we will ever get the price of oil back down to normal, not by doubling down on the shutting down of our foreign trade. I mean, it makes sense to me. It has to be at or below 30. Come on. And there we go. Are we ready? I mean, I think we're as ready as ever. Launch Fall Auto. Trescow pointed to the heart of Moscow with one finger. Getting here, he begins, drawing a straight line to Brauchenstadt will be difficult. We have a professional army true, but Shorna's troops are numerous, and they're not a gaggle of untrained rabble anyway. He plunged his nose up in a frustrated sigh. What a bloodbath. Hans Speidel sat beside him, and the two of them were drawing up the final details of Fall Otto, dedicated Otto I, a Holy Roman Emperor, by request of Treschow. Both men, however, seemed to be dallying with time, running deep into the night, but still a thought that preoccupied both of their minds. I think we can finish it here, Herr Treschow, Speidel said, and the Prussian gave a half-hearted nod. Everything is in place. The Heer is moving in, the Luftwaffe is preparing to take off, and the Kriegsmarine is ready to ship troops all over. All we must do is wait. Treschow, particularly seemed particularly out of it that night. Correct, I suppose. Herr Speidel, he rubbed his forehead. By God, that's assuming that madman Speer doesn't just roll over the slaves. He gave Speidel a look of concerned frustration. Have you heard what he's been saying recently? It's like he's gone mad, like that old fool Hitler. Speidel subconsciously grasped his fingers against the desk tightly. In his last days. Mad, I tell you. Whenever he mentions Schmidt, he always seems to have a sort of vile tone to him, like a snake. I don't know what he's done to deserve it. Speidel let out a sigh. Treschow, you should retire for the night. The stress is getting to you. The general's right. Bags that grew heavier by the days formed under Treskow's eyes. The old Prussian seemed on the brink of exhaustion. Perhaps, he began, looking at Speidel. Can I make a confession to you, Herr Speidel? The man nodded. Sometimes I wish I was never interested in politics. Oh, fucking same, dude. Okay, I want to see if they're going to attack. Well, looks like now is not the time for war. Seems like the war is coming next time. So see you then.